FM 94, The Dark. It is that time again. It's time to get to know a band we play here on The Dark. And on the phone tonight, I'm talking with the lead vocalist from the band Static Cycle. That is Jared Navarre. And Jared, first of all, thanks for joining me. Secondly, where are you calling from tonight? And thirdly, how are you doing?
I am displaced right now, calling from Chattanooga because we had more storms in Nashville. So we've got no power for maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks. So I'm tucked in an Airbnb in Chattanooga with my little studio rig.
Wow. Well, obviously I've been talking to a lot of bands in the last, month and a half with the COVID-19 pandemic, and we'll get to that in just a moment. But to now compile that with storms on top of that, it's got to be just mass chaos down in that area right now.
Oh, man, it is. So tornadoes came through, devastated quite a few homes, and then COVID hit, and then we've had some bad storms. It's been rough. I was trapped. We're from Alaska. I was actually trapped up in Alaska for the first part of all the COVID quarantine stuff. So it's been, for the band, it's been a little bit of a goat rope.
Hey, before we get into the band, let's talk about the COVID pandemic. And you said you were in Alaska. So what was the difference of the pandemic in Alaska to what the pandemic is down here in the lower 40 in Nashville?
So Alaska was a bit ahead of it. We closed things down up there earlier. We didn't have a lot of cases, but it's about as isolated as you can get. It's kind of funny. We already joke that we practice self-isolation because there's almost a square mile per person up there. Mm-hmm. I mean, we have a lot of land. So it didn't spread quick. Alaska's been doing great through it. But, I was up there for 2 weeks by myself, isolated in the cold. So it was rough. That's why I had to actually get on a plane and hop back down to Nashville, was just to keep myself mentally sane.
You mentioned a plane. What was that like, I guess, on a plane? I haven't talked to too many people that have been on a flight since COVID-19 has happened.
It was weird. I had to take the flight for some health, family reasons and stuff like that. I had some family members sick, and not with COVID. But there was only 4 of us on a 747 on my first flight, on a long 5 or 6 hour flight. It was odd. Everybody was masked up, gloved up, being safe, but it was a very, very weird experience. Never been in an airport, that empty, and the plane. They were losing money carrying 4 of us.
Oh yeah,
no doubt about it.
Absolutely. And then you mentioned you went down to Nashville, and Nashville is a booming town. And I had a chance about a month ago to talk to another band that's down in that area, and they said it was pretty much nothing. Is that still the case now? And now, obviously, with the storms that just came through?
Same. Yep, it is. Everybody's being smart and staying indoors, but it's tough because there's still a lot of devastation left over from the tornadoes. So it's a delicate balance between crews getting out and helping these homes and families rebuild, and there's a lot of families that are displaced, churches, other friends' homes, shelters, stuff like that, temporary shelter. So Nashville's in flux. I mean, the spirit is still strong, but, man, we're all pretty worn out from it.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, let's get to know more about the band Static Cycle, Jared. And I guess for us listeners, for myself even, that obviously have been introduced to this band in the last maybe 3-4 months, give us the history of the band. How did it all come about?
Well, we are from Alaska. I was born and raised up there, and moved to Nashville about 5 years ago. We started constructing this elaborate show and record. Our show is almost a hybrid between Cirque du Soleil and a Broadway show. It's a really, really immersive, unique experience. But the band, it was just, it was small town Alaska. Grew up playing songs, played up there, did well. We were, big fish in a small pond, and had to move to Nashville to really cut our chops and, be around the best of the best, the writing capital of the world. That's the quick story.
Yeah, that's pretty quick, but it's good. It's quick. I'm kind of curious. What is the Alaskan music scene like? I mean, I've there's a few people you've heard of, but you haven't heard of a ton of people coming out of there.
Yeah, Alaska loves rock. Alaska loves metal. It's actually a very eclectic scene, but we're starved for music up there because we don't get as many. We're getting more now, but we don't get as many national touring acts. So the local scene is as strong as I've seen it in any city in America. And bands love and respect each other and help each other out. And it's a good community, but lots of great metal bands, lots of great rock bands, good jazz scene. It's a much better scene than you'd think. You get up into Alaska. There's some real talent up there.
Yeah. Now, obviously, I'm from Minnesota. We're from Minnesota here, listeners, and that, so we get the weather. You know, you get a short window of being outdoor concerts of that. Does Alaska do many outdoor concerts at all?
Man, I've played a show New Year's Eve,
Really?
20 outside on a lake, and you just fight through it. We don't do it much. Well, we do it more than we should, I guess I should say. But you just don't have options. I mean, there's not a ton to do in the winter, and people love music, so you do your best to build a big enough bonfire and not get the electrical equipment too close, and you rock and roll.
And, you know, and this is more of maybe a selfish question for me, and I've never been to Alaska before. I know my parents, I think, have done a cruise and stuff. But, you know, you hear about the 24 hours of daylight. First of all, is that true? And then secondly, how do you sleep when it's always light?
It's definitely true. Farther north you get, it is 30 days of sunlight, and then it's 30 days of darkness. The sunlight, we put tinfoil on our windows to block out the sun, or you have blackout curtains, but I guess we're a little more ghetto, so we use tinfoil. But you do whatever you can during the night. But the brutal part is the darkness. When you're, growing up, we'd go to school and it'd be dark. You come home and it's dark for a month. That's pretty brutal. That's
interesting.
That's why we lead per capita and depression and alcoholism off and on.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I can see that. I can see that. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I've spent days where I don't get out of bed till 2 o'clock, so I know I have to have the dark shades. But, but doing it every day for 30 days, that might be a little bit different. Kind of mess with your mind a little, huh?
It is. On the summer solstice, when it's 24 hours of daylight, we'll do some shows sometimes. We're trying to do a big festival up there.
Okay.
It's changing now because of COVID, but you can play music around the clock. You can party around the clock. It's a pretty cool experience. It's energizing, but yeah, it's not good for sleep.
So what made you decide to get into a band, do music, and become, I guess, a rock star?
I just loved it from when I was a kid. A lot of R&B, a lot of rock, a lot of metal, and I couldn't stay away from it. That's the true, honest answer is I really feel like I didn't have a choice. It's just in me. A lot of my family, is into. I grew up in a culture of music, and I can't escape it. I've tried, not making it my love and passion, but it just pulls me back in. It's all I can think about and do.
Growing up in Alaska, did you have rock stations, or how did you get your music?
Yeah, we did. We have a really good station that's based out of Anchorage, which is close enough to where I'm from, and they played rock all my life growing up, and we had a few stations growing up, TV stations and stuff. We finally got MTV when I was, in my teens and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Right when it was dying, but.
Nice. What's it like when it first started, huh?
I don't know what that was like, but I hear it was amazing.
I read in your bio, actually, that MTV called you the greatest young frontman in rock. Where did that come from, I guess? I mean, obviously it came from MTV, but why did they say that?
Somebody was out at one of our shows, and we were playing with a band called Drowning Pool.
Yeah.
You know them?
Yeah.
And Pop Evil, and I love those guys, but the fans just loved us that night. We blew them off the stage. It was either that night or the next night. MTV guys were there both. I split my head open on stage as well, jumped up and hit a banister, and we kept playing through it while there's blood gushing down my face and stuff like that. So it was quite a spectacle. And then I went on stage and sang "Let the Bodies Hit the Floor" with Drowning Pool.
Yeah.
And Yeah, they just loved the energy and showmanship we had. It was a good night.
Yeah. I've had a chance to talk to CJ from Drowning Pool before. Nice guy, and seems like, in fact, they actually, the story here in central Minnesota, there was a festival just the south of the radio station here, and one of the bands had backed out, and I guess Drowning Pool was in the area and said, yeah, we'll come up and play. So they played. It filled in for somebody, and it was just a phenomenal show. So definitely a great bunch of guys.
They are. They're great. We played maybe 30 or 40 shows in a row with those guys. They're spectacular. CJ can play his ass off, too.
Oh, yeah.
Great guitarist.
We're talking with the lead vocalist of Static Cycle, Jared Navarre. And Jared, we mentioned about CJ Drowning Pool. You mentioned pop evil bands like that. This is not an easy industry to get into, and some bands, they succeed. Other bands, a lot of bands fail. Have you had some help from other bands in the industry? As you mentioned, a couple of bands that you've gone on a tour. Is there somebody that's helped you out in the industry?
Yeah, I would say Lee, the lead singer for Pop Evil, he's been a good mentor. CJ's helped. Right now we're doing some writing with Jason Hook from Five Finger Death Punch. He's
yes.
Helping. It took us a while to grind and pester and beat doors down before people would give us the time of day. So once you kind of break through, guys are willing to help, but, they're also providing for their families and their careers, or even the guys at the top in rock, they've got to still grind and hustle. So
right.
Guys have helped, but a lot of it's just come from us hitting the pavement and grinding.
Let's talk about a couple of your bandmates. You got Andy and also Lester, I believe, that help out. Am I correct on that? How did you guys get How did you guys get hooked up to get together?
Friends connected us in Nashville. Andy and I met and started writing some songs together, and Andy's been out with a bunch of really, really big, great artists in different genres, and he's got just rock in his veins, and we clicked early, just started writing together. And Lester, probably a couple years ago only, because he's full-time drummer for Kelly Clarkson still.
Yeah.
And but he was in a band called Pillar, which was a rock band.
Oh, yeah.
10, 15 years ago or something. And he's one of the best drummers on the planet. I mean, he is spectacular. So he just joined before we started releasing music, but he played everything on the record, and he's been amazing. They're both in Nashville, so
yeah,
us are there.
You mentioned Lester and Pillar. Actually, 2004, they had a song called "Bring Me Down." I just looked it up really quickly. That we play here on the airwaves. So, oh yeah.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
That was
Great.
song.
So you can tell Lester we're playing his song every once in a while.
I will.
Tell him that. Hey, and obviously you mentioned it takes time. It takes a lot of time, and it looks like, obviously you've been getting help now from people in the industry, but this song Boxes that's currently out on rock radio looks like it might be the song that kind of pushes you to the next level, as it got to the top 10 on the Foundations chart. Would you agree with that? Is this the song that's kind of helping you move on to the next level?
Man, I hope so. What's very weird right now is we don't know, because of the state of the industry and us not being able to play live. Is a lot of this industry is based on how well do you do at shows, ticket sales, festivals, and stuff like that. So we've had great streaming numbers, great interaction, great fan response from this, and we hope it's the track. But I don't think we'll know until we hit the road and see how people respond to our show.
Well, when I heard it, I'll be honest with you, when I heard it for the first time, I've been doing this for a while, so I mean, I can, a lot of times, let's put it this way, programmers, sometimes they say, all right, you need 3, 4, 5 times to hear a song to make it stick. Because there's some songs you hear first and second time, you're like, nah. And then later on, that became a number one hit. This song I heard the first time, and I was like, yeah, this is definitely a top 20 song, without a doubt. And I think you guys hit the mark, at least, with putting this song out first. Unfortunately, like you just said, maybe the timing of what happened with the pandemic is going to change that. But you know what? I think you should be able to be okay to stand behind this song and move forward from that.
Yeah, I'm with you. That's cool that it hit you right away, because you don't ever know. And we actually didn't think this was going to be a single at all. I mean, but the band never knows. We're dumb when it comes to our own music. I mean, we can't pick singles.
Well, here's the deal, and this is something that I do too. I've been married for almost 18 years, and a lot of times I'll tell my wife, I heard this song, you got to hear it. So I'll play it for her, and then she gives me that, I don't like that one. That one's good. She gave that one that one's good. So that's good. That's definitely, if you can pass my wife test, that's a good song.
That is a good. We're just going to start filtering songs through your wife that.
There you go.
Determine what the hits are.
You should do that. You talk about the COVID-19 affecting the industry. Let's before COVID-19, let's just go pre-COVID-19. What was your feeling of the rock music industry?
Man, it was on the uptick. It was growing like it hasn't in a couple decades. Metal was had the highest percentage growth in streaming last year, which is huge.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a bunch of young rock bands like us that are pushing and rebuilding, I think, the scene, because I think it's been hurting for a decade. So I can feel that. I can feel there's this massive movement to kind of build a resurgence around rock. Not that there's not incredible rock bands out there, but I can feel it. And we're trying to do that on the live side by bringing in a real immersive new experience where we're even pumping scents into these venues. Like, we're doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And I think we're about to see the next evolution. I hope that's what we're pushing for is, rock is about to turn a corner and become a bigger part of music culture again.
You told me right when we started this interview, you guys aren't just like a normal rock band. You're like Cirque du Soleil, or the all those kind of things put together for the experience. Now with COVID-19 happening, does this really scare you? Because obviously you're based around your live shows as being your big thing.
It doesn't scare me. I think it's a quick pause. I think people are hungry for it. It hurts us because, we put all of our effort and energy into this record, and we're supposed to be playing shows right now. So the band is going to go without, any band revenue for another 6 months probably. So
Right.
It hurts us, but we're not afraid of it. Music's too important. The live culture is too important. It'll rebound. There's no doubt in my mind.
Let me ask you, you mentioned the revenue side of things, and it's going to hurt you for 6 months. You yourself, is this your main revenue source? Do you have something outside of that? And also for your bandmates, Andy and Lester, too, how are they doing?
They're surviving. It is everyone's main source. So it's very tricky right now, but everybody's picking up, gigs and work here and there and doing some session stuff and scraping by until time comes. That's just the nature of it. But Andy does a bunch of writing and producing. Lester does a bunch of session work because, again, he's a world-class drummer. He's been on all kinds of records. So everybody's surviving, but, yeah, how long? Who knows?
So let me ask you this, as a younger band, an up-and-coming band, a band that hasn't been established. Some bands have established, so hopefully they've got some savings on that. But what can people do to help you guys out as best they can? And even though they're struggling too, what is the best thing that you could tell the listeners, the fans, of not even Static Cycle, but any young up-and-coming band or a band that hasn't been established, what they could do during this time right now to help bands like you?
This is a really tough subject for me because Spotify released something where on your main page you can go and give to a band, for instance. And we've elected not to do that because, we're fortunate to play music. And even if we're struggling, the band is struggling, I think more people out there are struggling that have, tougher jobs and tougher lives than we do. So you can go out and support bands by buying their merch and, purchasing their music and spreading the word. All that helps. But I think the money's got to go towards, people that need it. Not that we don't, but
Right.
We'll be okay. We'll figure it out. We'll survive. There's plenty of people out there who won't. And music will rebound. People will, people love and they'll protect and support music. So.
Just
I
thinking.
know that's not a great answer, but that's kind of how I personally feel.
Oh, I totally, and that's fine. That's great. And actually, while you were giving that answer, I was thinking to myself, okay, the government, and I don't like to talk politics really on this show because it's just that's not my thing. But I look at it like they're giving stimulus out to people and stuff, and they're trying to help small business and all that. And I was thinking, boy, how does like bands, how do they work when it comes to maybe getting something like that, some help from a government in that? Are you considered a small business? Do you have those kind of things like an LLC? How does that work?
Yeah, we would, and we are. And so you can try and get some of the payroll protection funding and some of the small business. But it's kind of tricky because a lot of bands don't carry and have employees.
Right.
And have consistent revenue that they can argue and justify those costs. So there's a couple big organizations, a couple nonprofits that are trying to get some funding specifically for musicians, artists, session players, producers, that kind of stuff. Because a lot of them, it just stopped. One day they're on the road touring and playing, and all of a sudden all their revenue has ceased, and they can't provide for their family. And that's how a lot of the session players are, a lot of the road warriors and stuff.
Right.
That's the travesty. But there's some NGOs helping, trying to right now.
Let's get your, we're talking to the lead singer of the band Static Cycle. Their latest song, Boxes, spins on our airwaves. That's Jared Navarre. Jared, what's your take of the COVID-19 virus when it comes to when do you think we'll be able to move on? And we're never going to get back to normal, but when do you think we'll get back to a new normal?
The Live Nation, AEG, and big players of the world are looking at not doing anything through the end of this year concert-wise on big shows. Mm-hmm. And that could change, but that's the word inside the industry. I think you're going to see a lot of smaller mid-level bands, I would say like ourselves, that are going to be able to play in the fall time. Probably not any sooner than that, but it's up to the promoters as well, because they're the ones taking the risk. They're the ones that are paying the bands and deciding they want to take the risk if people will show up.
Right.
So whenever people feel comfortable and safe, that's the best way to support the band, is to buy a ticket and show up and support live music again. Whenever we're ready. It's a touchy topic still.
Yeah, because, I guess, how do you envision a venue is going to look? Is the venue going to stay the same? Nothing's going to change? Or do you feel that, okay, we're not going to let as many people in? I guess I've been trying to envision how this would work to get going sooner than waiting until there's the herd immunity or the vaccination kind of thing. I guess, how do you vision it looking?
We wanted to. We tried early on, but we had no promoter would buy into it. We tried to get everybody hazmat suits with each ticket they bought.
Nice. Yeah, well,
we couldn't find a promoter that was willing to do it, but we were trying to put on shows that way. But I think venues will scale down. It'll be based on city and state ordinances, and they'll say, only 50 people at a time, then 100, then 200, and it'll just depend on the market. And some markets will have a need to keep things smaller for longer, but we're not going to have stadiums and stuff open
right.
at all. I can't imagine that happening. There's too much risk for, again, Live Nation, AEG, the big players. But man, they're hurting. That's a lot of.
Yeah, it's a lot of revenue lost.
A lot of revenue lost. Yeah.
How would I guess for and we can move on from this in a sec, but I guess concert-wise, so if you have it limited to so many people, is the ticket prices going to be a lot higher than you think because you're trying to get that money made, or how do you think that's going to work?
Man, I don't think they're going to be higher. I don't think we can.
Right.
Artists don't usually make that decision anyways, but I don't think the promoters can because people are going to be in tougher spots financially. So
mm-hmm.
I think tickets are going to be about the same, maybe even less. I think the unfortunate thing is bands are going to be able to play quite a bit less shows, less people, and they're going to make quite a bit less money.
Right.
So I don't think the fans are going to be the ones that are going to take it on the chin. I think it's going to be the bands, promoters, and the industry.
I agree 100%. And, like I tell people on this show, the big thing, especially for the up-and-coming bands, the smaller bands, is, go to the show, buy the merch. The merch is huge because you get that money back generally, don't you?
Yeah, we usually get, almost all that, depending on what your deal is with, label, venue, stuff like that. You usually get a lot of that money back. So if people can buy merch, that's amazing for the band.
Absolutely. Hey, what's the future of the band? As we've been talking a lot about COVID-19 and that, but moving forward here after the song Boxes, I know that they're at least looking at some of the paperwork here. Looks like you're going to have another ad coming up with a song called Wolf. Is that kind of the next direction you're going?
Yep. Wolf is just released to... Well, it's being released, so you guys are going to get it, yeah. I don't even remember what the ad date is. I'm terrible. But that one's coming next.
I think it's in a week or two, if I remember right.
Well, I got to get my...
Here, I'll look at May 19th is what it... May 19th. So, a couple weeks.
As soon as... that's our next one. The full record's going to come out in the fall.
Yeah.
And we're trying to release, at least digitally, a single every 4 to 6 weeks. So we've got... The record's done. We've actually got almost a whole other record done because we haven't had anything else to do, just write. So the future is, as soon as this record comes out, hopefully we can tour and start taking over the world and changing rock and roll. I mean, that's what we've been setting out to do for, again, it's been about 5 years in the making. We've built this music record, this crazy show, so we're ready to go.
Yeah, I bet you are. You mentioned the touring. You said you had to stop a tour here. Who were you out on tour with, at least until it stopped?
We didn't even get to play a show yet.
Oh, you didn't?
We were supposed we were supposed to go out with Fuel. We were supposed to go out with 3 Days Grace.
Yeah.
And then we were supposed to do some headlining theater shows ourselves with our full show. And everything was just canceled basically in a week.
So moving forward, do you have some other shows and tours lined up that you can let us know, or is that too early to tell yet?
We've got nothing right now.
Nothing. Wow.
Nope. And there's conversations going on, but nobody can put a date on the books. Nobody even can really finalize a lineup for a band our size because they don't know capacity, dates, even what venues are possibilities, because some of the venues are looking that they might have to close permanently. It's a weird time.
Yeah.
We just don't know.
Well, we're living it. We're going to be in the history books, I guess, aren't we?
We are, for better or for worse.
Yeah, we are. That's for sure. Hey, you mentioned the touring. That have you had any shows in Minnesota? Have you ever been up here before or not?
We have. I can't remember what. There's a theater in Minneapolis we've played.
Okay.
And,
might be the Varsity Theater.
That's what it is.
Okay.
Varsity. Yeah. But it was years ago. And then, do you know the producer John Fields?
I do not know him personally. No.
He's a big Minneapolis producer, but he did a bunch of Switchfoot stuff. He did some pop stuff early on.
Okay.
But he even did, I think he did the first Jonas Brothers records and stuff like that. But he's a great rock producer based out of Minneapolis there. And we just did a song on this record with him. So we were up there, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago.
Okay. Nice. Well, obviously if you're in Alaska, it's cold. So it's like, it's not like some of these bands where I talk to, if they're from Florida, they've never been up here. They're like, what? It's called You Can Walk on Water? Yeah, no, it's not a Jared Leto song. It's actually true. I mean,
it's real. You know what, though? We were up. We were up last winter whenever you guys had record low temperatures.
It was last year, yeah. Those probably end of January, February of a year ago.
Okay, so we were there recording again with John Fields that time, and it was, it was brutal. I mean, I've been in negative 82 in Alaska, which is...
Fahrenheit? Fahrenheit, negative 82?
Yes.
Holy buckets. I think the world record, or the coldest it's ever been in Minnesota is like negative 60 or 61.
It was really far up north in Alaska.
I hope there was no wind that day up in there. If you get like somebody blows, it's like a 30 mile blow windshield additional to it.
Yeah, Yeah, no, that would be bad.
Oh, boy. Hey, I know we got to get going here and stuff, but talk, I guess, if people want more information about the band Static Cycle, I'm assuming they can get it on social media and that?
Yep, we're everywhere. Everywhere/Static Cycle.
Awesome. And, you mentioned the new record going to come out in the fall and that. Anything else, I guess, you'd like to say to the listeners out there about the band Static Cycle?
We are trying with everything we have to keep rock alive. I mean, that's our goal. Is we've loved it so much, and it's been a dying genre for the last 7-8 years, and it's making a comeback. So support rock. Doesn't have to be us. Support rock, but we're going to do our best to lead the charge.
Awesome. And once we get all this COVID-19 stuff figured out, we're going to definitely have to invite you up here to Minnesota and play for us. Would that be all right?
Oh, I'd love to, man. We'll come in studio, we'll play, we'll do whatever, bring in a little batch of your listeners, play for them, whatever you want.
That'd be great. Jared, thanks so much for joining me, and we're going to spin your latest song, Boxes, okay? Be safe, and good luck to you.
Thank you, my man.
Once again, that is the lead singer of the band Static Cycle. That is Jared Navarre. Their latest song is Boxes. You're hearing it right now. It's on The Dark. It's on FM 94.